Hi, everybody. Great to see you all. Whether you're here with me in the little Zoom corner or you're live on Facebook or you're watching this at some later point in time, I want to say thank you for being here and thank you for putting this time into yourself. We do things for everybody else all day long. This is a moment for you to grow yourself, grow your own awareness, try things you haven't tried before, think about things you haven't thought of before. There's that study from years ago about measuring how many thoughts people have per day, in as much as anybody can actually tell what a thought is. And it's like 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And most of them are the same ones you had yesterday, which is why you so often get the same results. It's not that you're not trying new things, but you're thinking about it in the same way. So that neural pathway, it's like a slalom course. You just keep going down the hill to get the same results. And it's uncomfortable to change ways. It's uncomfortable to do things differently. And so I started thinking like, well, what are some of the spiritual and intuitive tools for success? One I put in the email was the way you treat your money is a spiritual lesson in how you believe love works. Do you feel like it's scarce and you have to hang on to every penny? Do you feel like, oh, it comes and goes, and you get a little blithe about it? Maybe you're not paying as much attention to it as you should. Do you feel like it's something for other people and not for you? Unknown, mysterious, like it can't possibly be figured out by me or anyone else. Where do your, maybe this is the better inquiry, where do your beliefs about money and your beliefs about love intersect? If your feeling about money is like, oh, money is easy and fun, and I love playing around with money, I love having money, I love giving money away, it's not really an issue for me. Do you have those same thoughts about love? It's plentiful, it's not hard to manage, it fills my life with joy, it allows me to do more things for more people. Do you have a feeling about love that it's like, oh, it's abundant, it's free, it fills up my life, it lights up my life, it doesn't need to, I pay attention to it because I love it, but I don't feel the need to control it or constrict my feelings or thinking around it in any way? Do you have that same feeling about love? About money? And if not, could you? Or where could you? And where could some of your behavior, like, oh, I love love and spirit so much, I make sure I have time to pray every day. Great. Do you love money and spirit so much that you make time to pay attention to your finances every day? You see where I'm going with this, right? As you have heard, I'm sure, from more people other than me, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So we were just talking about how money and, oh gosh, you look like a supermodel, my word.
Well, gosh, way to make my day.
I didn't know it was a formal occasion. I would have dressed.
That's hilarious.
You look beautiful.
Quite exaggeration, but thank you.
Will you tell people a little bit about what's happening on there and why they might want to join us?
Yeah, we're so happy to have you on Ticket to Freedom. It's a well-seasoned event that we do. It's a Soul Fuel series. We are there to have really interesting, real, authentic conversations that are unedited. There's not like a lot of strategy going into it, if you know what I mean. So there's no sales. Sam and I had a wonderful session just yesterday. It was yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was.
Recorded. So we're offering our audience a mindset, energetic, business, intuitive strategies and practices, help our audience to attract more clients, really the right client, not just any clients, without burning out, and also specifically without living your life on social media. I think a lot of people are feeling pretty exhausted about social media. So we aren't emphasizing that at all. We know many different ways of building a business, a thriving multiple six-figure and beyond business without relying on social media.
And you've got some of my favorite other teachers there. Dee Wallace is there. EG is there. Love EG. Melanie Benson, who I just had lunch with in LA.
When you go to tickettofreedomsummit.com, you can see all the speakers up to date of everyone that's joined us. And so I wanted to provide our audience with a diverse panel, different points of view, different backgrounds, to really provide everyone participating with various points of view that might connect with personally. So yeah, it's exciting. We're really glad to be doing it. And then there's gifts every day that we're giving away, business building and spiritual growth gifts every day that are completely free.
So good. So I was just talking earlier about like how you think about love and how you think about money can
interesting
be teachers, right? For
yeah,
us.
I love that.
Not that this happened in my own life or anything just this morning. People who annoy you or get on your nerves are your teachers.
Yes. Our worst critics are excellent teachers.
Yeah, I just got something today from somebody that it wasn't mean particularly, but it definitely had some attitude. What are you doing? Like, that's like, and I'm like, yeah, like, I'm immediately a seventh grader. I'm like, hey, stop it. Don't be mean. Stop it.
Right. I know. We resort to our childhood when these things, and all of us feel, have these experiences.
Well, exactly. And I think sometimes people don't move forward in making themselves more visible because they're afraid that they're going to get criticized,
Yeah.
or they allow their fear of criticism to keep them sort of polite instead of playing full out.
Yes. You are already being criticized and judged, whether you're visible or not.
And you are already criticizing and judging yourself.
Unfortunately, it's part of the human experience. We're wired to actually judge. It goes back to kind of our survival mind to protect ourselves and the people we love, right? So our mind is trained to do that. But to try to avoid it is absolutely futile because it is constantly going on. Why keep yourself small or less visible to avoid it? If it's already happening, you may as well be more visible, live the life of your dreams, be fully you, and nothing's going to change. People are still going to criticize and judge, and it's okay.
And again, the more you let that imaginary person lobbing imaginary criticisms at you, this is not the highest and best use of your imagination, people. Like, if you're going to imagine someone, imagine them loving your work, running to your arms with their American Express card, like, please, thank goodness I found you. Thank goodness, you're the person I've been looking for.
So tell me what you were saying. What's your primary point of view about love and money?
I was just saying that the way you treat money can be a spiritual lesson in how you believe love works. Right. So if we're feeling about like, oh, it's scarce, there's not enough of it, I can't control it, I don't understand it, it's too confusing for me, I don't want to look at it, how much money I have is a reflection of my worth. If you just change out the word money for love, does that make sense to you? And some people have it the other way, right? Where they're fine with the money stuff, but it's the love stuff that feels confusing or
yes.
Look at this little.
I love it. My kitty, I think
because they're black, they always look like they're in
she's over.
So, oh, my kitty.
A little tiny, black Persian. So we both have black cats.
Because they're the coolest. It's an interesting sort of game to go like, oh, where am I being led to feel more loving and expansive and settled in my relationship with money and with love? Yeah,
my biggest breakthrough with money was when I began to perceive it as a relationship, as if it were a person. So I have my clients write a letter to money, for example.
Yeah, we talk to money like we would never talk to a friend.
Yeah, and treat it very like head in the sand, ignore it, pretend like it isn't there, worried it's always going to go away, not trusting it to come back or to stick around. Like all of that it is a relationship. We have a relationship with everything in our lives. We have a relationship with our desk. We have a relationship with everything around us, including money.
I was telling a story the other day about how I was at a conference and somebody came up to me, a friend of mine, a guy I known for a long time, but he's like, hey, Sam, I've been thinking about writing a book and I was thinking you would make a really awesome book coach. And I was wondering if you ever did that for people. And I said, oh, Tyler, don't be silly. Just call. If you got questions about book writing, just call me. Like, it's not. And the next day I was like, oh, this is my signature. No, get that money away from me. And I circle back to him. I'm like, actually, Tyler, you know what? You're right. I do make an awesome book coach. It's $5,000 for 6 sessions and we can get started right away. I'm like, Samantha, people are trying to give you money. Stop telling them no.
Right?
If I were single and somebody came up to me and said like, hey, I find you really attractive. Can we sit down and talk a little bit? No, just give me a call. No,
exactly. Just like blocking it. Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks. I also put something else that I think is interesting that I'd love to hear your take on is that intuition can be a super valuable tool in business, except for when you confuse intuition and an ingrained emotional pattern.
Interesting. Yes.
Right. That whole because we do relationships too, like, oh, this person treats me exactly the same way my father did. I love you.
Yeah. And that can feel like a gut, like, oh, in my gut, this feels right because it's home.
And it can be very tricky to distinguish what is your genuine intuition about what's best for you and what just feels familiar and like home.
There is a practice that we each have to discern what is intuition for us versus what you're saying, an emotional pattern conditioning. When it comes to business, I have found it's important to also know when you need to educate or train yourself about something versus trusting your intuition about, let's say, a marketing strategy or a business strategy that you don't have any training behind. Like you want to trust your intuition to start the business or to grow the business or to pivot the business or the offers you're making, the ideas you have, the innovations that you want to bring forth. But there's also a piece around learning the business and getting that acumen under your belt to make those intuitive hits actually work in the real world.
And having things like, I don't know, metrics.
Yeah.
Is this actually working, or does it just sort of feel like it's working?
Right. Yeah. The numbers don't lie. I always tell my clients that. And it goes both ways. So you can feel like, okay, no one's showing up. Clients will say, I had nobody on my webinar. And I'm like, really? Was it 0? They'll tell me the number. And I'm like, is that nobody? So the numbers don't lie. And they can help you to break through when you're undervaluing what you're doing and when you're overvaluing what you're doing.
I think there's a similar place we can get caught up, the intuition of like, oh, I don't think that's right for me versus I'm afraid of it.
Right.
Right. That gut, like, oh, there's some natural hesitation anytime you're going to try something new, and being able to again, sort of parse out, you got to get the fine tooth comb a little bit and parse out like, okay, am I hesitating on this because it's genuinely not the right strategy for me, or this is generally not the client for me, or this is generally not the right offer for me, or am I just hesitating because I'm scared? And of course I'm scared. It's something new.
The way that I have sorted through that is because it's true. Anytime you try something new, anytime you're getting outside your comfort zone, you're going to feel fear and resistance. That is normal. It does not mean it's not meant for you or it's not the right intuitive thing to do, or even outside of intuition. Even though I'm afraid or even terrified, and my gut is telling me, go for it, even if logic is saying that seems ridiculous, like that's not going to work. Logically, that makes no sense. You've never done it before. How do you know whether you're going to fail or succeed? But my gut is telling me to do it. I'm feeling the fear, but there's a degree of excitement and enthusiasm, like some kind of like uptick in my energy of like, that to me is the green light. What do you think?
Yeah, my friend Amy refers to it as a full body yes. It's a physical sensation. And I think there's a little bit of jumping off the high dive. Like, again, it feels a little nerve-wracking, a little nervous, but most just want to go. Like, yeah, let's just do this.
Right. Even though you're scared.
And sometimes I think you're not going to know until you try. Take some baby steps, as you know, me and my 15 minutes a day, like just take some baby steps, see what happens. Because sometimes you take a couple baby steps and it's awkward. It's a lot of knees and elbows. It doesn't feel good, flakes out. It turns out to be way more expensive, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, you know what?
Yes.
We can cut bait right here. This isn't going to work. Or, and sometimes you take a couple little baby steps and it's like, oh, this is fantastic. Why didn't I do this years ago?
Yeah. And there can be a learning curve. So with anything new, and depending on how complex it is of what you're attempting to do, there can definitely be a challenge period. And sometimes people can retreat and retract during that period where they'll say, well, this must not be for me because it's just too challenging. That's what you really want to lean into. If your gut told you is the right direction, even though you were scared, and you started taking the action steps, you can trust that even through the challenge. And once you get on the other side of the challenge, that's when you see that growth and you go, oh, I'm really glad I did that. I'm really glad.
And this is where it can be so helpful to have a teacher, a mentor, a series of talks that you listen to, like in Wendy's Summit. Sign up for it now. It's totally free. I remember my friend Allison Bird gave this fantastic keynote one time I heard her give, where she was talking about when she was first starting her business and she was so scared, but so relying on her faith. And she's like, okay, God, I'm going to jump off this branch. Please be the wind beneath my wings. Like, let me soar. Let me do this. And she said she just went pancake.
Yeah.
And she was brokenhearted and desolate. But as she thought about it more and more, she realized, and as she, I think, talked to her coach, she realized she hadn't jumped off the highest branch. She had jumped off the curb.
Oh, interesting.
Like she hadn't risked enough. She hadn't done enough bravery. She hadn't talked to enough people. She hadn't launched big enough. She hadn't kept going with enough effort so that people could find her, so that she could get good results.
Because you need to have a certain amount of velocity, if you will, like a certain amount of energy to lift you. Like, and you've got to be able to go. That's why we really want to go for it, not just half-ass it, because that gives us that oomph.
I have a friend who made a coloring book and she had them printed up and she was taking them around to like some of her local bookstores to see if they wanted to carry it, which is an independent thing. And I think one person said yes and one person said no, and one person said the manager's not here, come back later or whatever. And she was super duper discouraged. It's like, dude, I hate to break it to you, but you haven't even begun.
Yes.
If you've talked to 300 bookstores,
right, exactly.
Then now you could tell me that it wasn't working. But 3 is not a sample.
No, you kind of, this is again where a good coach and mentor comes in, which of course Sam and I are going to be 100% on board with, because I've always had mentors, coaches since I was a child. I embraced this. Like I had outside mentors outside of my family. You really need someone to help set the expectation. When I think about if I wanted to go run a marathon, I would want a good coach would be honest about what it's going to take to run a marathon. They would say, okay, Wendy, you're going to need to buy these kinds of clothes and train this way. And it's going to take you about this long. And you're going to have challenging days. And there's days you're going to want to give up. Aw. And when you have someone telling you that, you need to go in informed about what it's going to take and the challenge that it's going to be, and have people cheering you on every step of the way to make it through to the finish line. But if you don't have someone doing that, then you're going to think going to 3 bookstores is like enough to get the right response, when it absolutely isn't. You need to talk to a really experienced person to know how many, approximately.
Right. And not to, and I don't mean to run her down. I mean, obviously it took a lot of courage for her to go into those 3 bookstores and do that thing. Like, it was a great start, but it just, don't take score too soon, I guess is really what I'm saying. And you're exactly right with getting a coach and a mentor. And what you didn't say that I will say is, whoever it is you're working with, whether it's me or Wendy or somebody else, make sure that person has done what you want to do.
Successfully, I'd say too.
Successfully.
Yeah. Not just done it, but they've done well at it. Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of people out there teaching you how to have a 6-figure business who have never had a 6-figure business, or they have a 6-figure business, but it costs them 6 figures to run it.
Right.
You don't need the best or most expensive person. You just need the person who's like 10 steps ahead of you on the trail. And for those of you who are coaches and teachers, you also don't need to be able to, you don't have to have every credential in the world or have achieved everything, but you need to be able to reach back 10 paces down the road and go like, okay, I don't know everything, but I can get you from there to here.
In both the inner game and the outer game. So understanding like the mindset as well as the strategies and the actions. Yeah. And it really does matter how you're viewing things, the framework, the lens that you're looking at your life through, and what you have to do. Or get to do, I like to say.
Get to do. We used to say that when I was a camp counselor. You don't have to, you get to.
Right.
You don't have to have KP duty. You get to.
Yeah. You can sign up right now. You can go to the link that is posted here in the chat, wendycollier.com/Sam. We are starting to release the series November 28th, and that is running through December 7th. So you have a good amount of time to participate and take those in.
Christopher says, what suggestions do you have to regroup and recharge after diving off that high dive and making a huge belly flop because it was too much and too complex for you to do yourself? Am I answering my own question when I say that I need to hire people to do a lot of this with me and for me? Any other suggestions from a spiritual and motivational standpoint? Oh, that's a great question, Chris. Yeah. I think trying to do everything yourself is a recipe for disaster. And I say this as someone who has lifelong self-sufficiency disease. Like,
yeah,
I always think I can do everything all by myself. And I kept my business artificially small for a long time doing that.
It sounds like you did dive off and you made a huge belly flop. And now you're trying to recover. So there's a couple different perspectives on this. One is to prevent that situation to begin with. It's not as though you never have to regroup and recharge. That's important. But there is a way to operate in your business and in your life to proactively get rest so you don't get burnt out, where you feel like dropping out completely for a month just to recover from something. There are daily practices, little bite-sized breaks you can take in your day.
I was once at a Korean spa, and my girlfriend that I was with got a reflexology massage. And she said during her massage, the lovely Korean woman who was giving her foot reflexology looked up at her and said, rest before you are tired.
Exactly. Yep. Mind blown.
Is that allowed? Is that legal? It's like drink before you get thirsty, right? By the time you're thirsty, you're hydrated, right? I would also encourage you to do some creative work around what you're thinking of as this belly flop. Make some 90-second doodles about it, do some free writing about it, do some right hand, left hand writing about it. And really, because failure is very rarely just failure. There's always a lesson. There's always a next chapter. There's always something, a gift in there. It doesn't feel like it. It's a present that doesn't look like a present, but there's something valuable for you in there. And I also want to say, I'm super proud of you for even just taking the plunge. Well done, you.
Like taking the dive, that alone is an accomplishment. That alone is something you should celebrate. Most people are not taking the dives. They're never having that life experience that says, oh my gosh, I'm really living. I'm challenging myself. I'm living. And that's what you did. So that's brilliant.
I remember having what I thought at the time was a terrible, terrible, terrible failure. And I was devastated. And I was alone in my father's apartment in Chicago, laying on the carpet, just crying and sobbing in that like animal way. Finally, I called I calmed down, and he had one of those big projection TVs. Remember those?
Oh,
He was still on. And I looked up and I saw a car commercial and I was like, wow, car commercials. And then I thought, I bet there's a lot of people laying on the carpet sobbing in Chicago right now.
you're not the only one.
Not the only person alone in an apartment
No.
sobbing right now. And that, like I said, I don't even really remember. I remember some of the circumstances, but I don't even really remember what it was that I was so upset about. But what I do remember is that first thought on the other side of just having compassion for myself and for everybody else who was brokenhearted in that moment.
Right.
This doesn't have to be lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, this is part of the human experience. It really is. It's part of the human. Can I say one more thing about Chris's question?
Of course, of course.
While it is important to hire people and to delegate and outsource, that's essential. Until we learn how to manage our own energy and how to stay out of the overwhelm, we will still experience that if we, even with people on our team. That isn't the total solution, just to hire people, delegate out, because also it's how we're managing or leading that team of people that makes all the difference in the results. And so we need to have that come from energy of being filled up, being fueled proactively, really taking care of ourselves in order for that to work really well.
I've seen this over and over and over again with people who, I just don't want to deal with the marketing. I just don't want to deal with the sales. Like, I want to have somebody do that for me.
Yeah.
It's going to be the talent. And I totally understand that impulse. Until you understand it and are comfortable enough with marketing and sales yourself to do it, you're not going to be able to find somebody else to do it for you effectively. I wish you could.
I know, right?
Again, it's that head in the sand. I don't want to deal with it. It's scary. It's mean. It feels good to ask for the money. Like, whatever psychological game you've got going on that's preventing you from understanding that marketing is just great storytelling and education, and sales is a sacred exchange of energy, it's going to get in your way, even if you've got somebody else trying to take care of it. So it is worth you doing the work. And until you achieve some level of mastery at it, then if nothing else, you could understand what those people you're hiring are actually doing.
And also, they can't care nearly as much as you care about your business and the outcomes.
No one.
So I mean, that's an understatement, right?
Yeah.
You're the person that cares the most about your business, the outcomes, and what's going on. You need to infuse that in your leadership energy with your people, and also be able to problem solve the challenges that they're facing as they go to help you. That's part of when you do it or you learn it on your own, you're able to help problem solve any challenges that come up as well.
Exactly. And not by their excuses.
You know better, right?
Exactly.
If you're clueless, you're not going to know. They're going to be the quote expert in that, and you're going to trust. Yeah. It's just they can't care as much as you can. That was a piece of advice I got very early on. And it surprised me a little bit when I got it, but I think about it a lot that, yeah, that's exactly right. No one is ever going to care about your business the way you do. And in some ways, no one should, no matter what. It's your name. It's your name on the bank account. It's your name on the credit card. It's your name on the contract. You are 100% responsible for everything that happens inside of your business, whether you did it or not. If a team member screws up, that's my fault. Radical responsibility. My fault because I either didn't train them properly, my expectations were wrong, I wasn't clear. Lori said, I've recently had some very good days on the sales end of this book writing experience, thanks to these sessions. That's great, Lori. That's wonderful to hear. Good for you. All right. Well, we've kept you guys a little over our half hour because I was so happy to have Wendy here and we get talking. So thank you. So let's wrap up with one more breath, but please do register for Ticket to Freedom. Just go to Wendy Collier, WendyCollier, wendycollier.com/Sam. And we'd love to see you in that summit and hear what you learn and what you get. And there's a lot of free gifts and cool stuff. And the event is free. It's completely free. And also every day a speaker, an expert is giving away a really valuable free gift. I'm amazed at what people are giving away. It's pretty incredible. It's be like a little holiday, but gift for yourself. It is. Right. And for your business, which could use some love. All right. So let's breathe, everybody. Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you, Veronica. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for having me. You bet. On the other side.